Hi, and welcome to Abundance Masters. I'm your host, Genevieve Kahn of GenevieveKahn.com, and I'm an abundance creation guide. Now, what is abundance exactly? Well, as you've probably seen many times before in this series, it really is a subjective thing. However, we've got some great guests that have been just absolutely fantastic about presenting what their idea of abundance is and how they've gotten there. So today we have Cheryl Kemppainen. And she is a holistic nutritionist, chef, and a 500-hour certified yoga teacher. Cheryl, thanks so much for being here with me today.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
This is just so exciting because I would love to get your take on abundance. How did you come to do what you do?
I was a certified chef. I'd gone through culinary school. I used to be an English teacher, and then I just really liked food, and I kind of wanted to do something that I was enjoying. And I went through culinary school, and then I struggled in the culinary industry. It can be a really tough place to find your niche, and everyone kept telling me, you'll find your niche, you'll find your niche, and I was like, I'm not finding my niche. And then I went away to South America on a trip. I went to Ecuador, and I ended up getting really, really sick. I got a parasite down there, and it just wreaked complete havoc on my entire system, and I ended up getting really sick. And so that caused me to start studying holistic nutrition. And that is how I started on this journey. And then I did find a niche that I really liked in the culinary industry. And it just turned out that it was not cooking in the traditional sense as a chef, but more figuring out how to feed myself, because I really did have to relearn how to eat. I had to change a lot of my diet from the illness that I had. And then it became an autoimmune thing that I do still struggle with, but for the most part, I have it under control. Or at least I know how to have it under control. Sometimes I pretend I can eat things that I can't, and then I get sick again. But
I can definitely.
So that is how I found my way.
I'm sorry, what was that?
That's how I found my way to where I am now.
Oh, that's great that you were able to, go through that journey and discover what works for you and what doesn't. And I can definitely relate to that, with my medical issues. I'm not going to go into that really here, but I had to have or discover a diet that works for me. And I'm actually still discovering that, but I'm definitely getting there. And it's this standard diet, here in the US, we call it the standard American diet, that doesn't really work for me.
Right.
And a lot of it is junk, to be honest. And I had to let go of a lot of foods that I really loved because they really weren't healthy for me and they really weren't serving me.
Yes. I understand that completely too. And for me, I know the easiest way for me to describe it is paleo-esque is what I say. Because I used to eat a lot of whole grains and a lot of things that are labeled superfoods, like the kales. And unfortunately for my particular system, it's not healthy, and it triggers autoimmune issues and episodes. And so I had to rewrap my mind around what was healthy for my body, and how what was healthy for me was definitely not something that I ever thought it would be. And this is where I would encourage anybody listening that has or feels like they would need a dietary issue change to actually speak to somebody that can inform you. Because if you just go to the store and you read a book, all the books are going to say, this is the diet, this is going to cure you, this is going to do it. And it's not necessarily going to do that for your own unique self. Everybody's different. So what works for me might not work for you.
That's so true. I've found that as well. And I've read many different diets, and I think the word diet is sometimes confused because very often when people think of a diet, they think it's to lose weight. And it can be, And that's a whole other
Yeah.
story. In my opinion, diets to lose weight don't work. You need a lifestyle change. So I think
Yes.
when you and I are talking about diet right now, it sounds to me like we're talking about just how we regularly want to eat, like not just
Yes.
lose weight, nothing like that. I mean, thank goodness I don't have a weight issue. So
Yes.
I did, years ago, I probably had about 20 pounds more on me than I needed. But it's a funny thing, the word diet, because
Yeah.
it definitely,
It's almost
that
like a
means
swear
different.
word. Yes. Yeah, and diets, yeah, it is a lifestyle shift, and it's hard to do. It's not easy. It definitely wasn't for me. I had been to the doctor and I had some pulps removed during a procedure, and then I felt really good after that. And I thought, oh, okay, like maybe that was the problem. And about 4 or 5 months later, I was back in the same situation again. And that's when I personally went to go see a naturopath, and I was just a bit at a loss. And she said, well, let's try this. And I noticed relief within about 2 weeks, but it still probably took me close to 2 years to really get things under control. It wasn't a quick process. And food is a lot of things. Food isn't just what we put into our body for energy, it's also emotional. And, we eat for a wide variety of reasons. And it's hard to change what you eat. And statistically speaking, a traditional diet, I believe the stat on it is after 2 years, 97% of people will go back to how they used to eat. So it really is creating a lifestyle shift and a lifestyle change that is sustainable for you. And for me, I guess I almost got forced into it, because if I eat the things that are bad for me, I get quite sick. And so I suffer the consequences if I don't follow the steps that I need to step and eat the things that I need to eat. And so maybe that was a little bit easier for me to make that lifestyle shift, but I just had to do it. There was no choice.
Absolutely. And I think it can be a journey, definitely, with diet to find out
Mm.
what works for us. I'm actually doing a paleo-esque diet myself, which is
Mm-hmm.
I've cut out dairy, I've cut out processed sugar, I've cut out
Yes.
grains, including gluten, and
Yes.
we'll see. I mean, I feel good in that I have less pain, which is great. I've had some
Yeah.
chronic pain issues, so I definitely have some less pain. So I'm looking forward to seeing how else it's going to help me. And it really is amazing how what I used to think was healthy really isn't. Like the bread,
Yeah.
um, and I'm forgetting what else. But I think one example is good enough.
Bread for me was one too. I always had an allergy to dairy, and I'm actually anaphylactic to it. So I'll break out in hives, my throat will start to swell up, my lips, like for some reason this side of my face will swell first. And so I have quite a severe reaction to it. And I don't have that reaction to gluten. But I did realize through all these dietary changes and working with a naturopath, basically doing an elimination diet, that I always was a migraine sufferer, and gluten triggers migraines for me. And
I've heard that with
I
other
did.
people too. Yeah.
Yeah, and they are very similar. They tend to go hand in hand. And my naturopath kept saying to me, "No, Cheryl, like if you have a problem with dairy, like there's a good chance you have a problem with gluten." And I was like, "I don't think I do. I'm fine." And it just took me actually listening to my body and realizing what was going on. And then it's like, okay. And now if I eat bread in particular is a trigger for it. But but I'll probably have a headache within 5 hours, and it'll last anywhere from 1 to 2 days. So it's not necessarily worth it for me to put myself through that.
No, it really isn't. And it's a funny thing because there's a number of ways to approach an elimination diet. You can try one food at a time. For me, I just wanted to get to the next level so much that I just eliminated the things that I mentioned right away, because my body, those aren't necessary foods for survival anyway. So I figured, what the heck, let me just try it and get rid of it all and see how I feel. You know, my main issue is extreme weakness for MS. I'm not going to get into much else, but I am just looking to get stronger. And for anybody who's watching this that has any kind of issues, like, you know, any kind of issues at all, whether it be mine, Cheryl's, or something completely different, you can take your health into your own hands and you will feel more abundantly healthy, which is, you know, I don't think there's any putting a price on that.
No. And when you don't have your health, you don't have much else. And I learned that firsthand, and it sounds like you have also experienced that firsthand. And it's important to know that you do have more control than I think sometimes you feel when you're having illness or you're under control of the disease. And I know I felt it wasn't just the physical symptoms of the pain, it was also, I had a lot of depression and anxiety that resulted from it. And it's like this negative circle that you go through where, you know, you have the anxiety, which for me triggers the colitis, and then the colitis triggers the depression. And it's just like this vicious circle that you get into. And when you're in it, sometimes it's really, really hard to have the faith and have the belief that you do have control and that you can make changes that will help you. But you do.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. It's very easy when we're not feeling our best to become depressed. That has happened to me more times than I can mention. It is really empowering, though, when we actually take our health into our own hands. And it's just so important to note that Western medicine does have its benefits. However, it's also extremely limited. So, you know, I don't discount Western medicine. I go and I see my doctors. You know, I'm on one prescription medication that has really helped me that nothing else could help. So I think it's really up to the individual, but I just want to make that disclaimer. I don't want to claim that, you know, you shouldn't be, you know, involved in Western medicine at all.
No, I'm a big believer that you need both. And, you know, you always talk to your doctor because they have a training that other practitioners don't have. And sometimes it's a tool. Like, I think sometimes people are very anti prescription medication, but if all that is a tool to give you quality of life and it's not hurting you, it's helping you, then that is definitely something that you should absolutely partake in. And work with the other stuff too. Work with your diet too. You know, go to the gym. It's all important. But yes, absolutely, see your doctor.
Yeah, and for those viewers who might feel a little overwhelmed at, you know, going to see your doctor and, you know, shifting your diet, it's actually, one way that I choose to look at it is it's more empowering, because I'm not sitting around being a victim to my physical condition.
Yes, you take your power back. Yeah, and that's what it's been like for me too. And within the next year, I'm gonna have to go back through to get a checkup. I'm supposed to get them every 5 years now to get a colonoscopy. be done. And, I'm not going to stop doing that, even though I do feel significantly better than I did the last time I had that happen. And I feel like I do have a lot more control over things, and I think my body is trying to heal itself. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop seeing the doctor.
Right. Yeah. It's just so important that we have both. And I think that's
Yes.
really what the true meaning of holistic is. It's not
Yes.
completely dropping one thing and only doing another.
No, absolutely not. And it can be incredibly frustrating to try and figure it out. And it's finding a balance, and you add more one thing and then you're out of balance on another aspect, and it's a constant battle for me. It's not something that all of a sudden you reach a pinnacle and you figure it out and you never have a problem again. It's always a little bit of give and take. And for the most part, I know what to do if I start to have an episode, and I know how to control it through diet. And I also know that having a regular breathing practice and meditation practice is exceptionally helpful for me. And that helps with the stress, which doesn't further trigger the colitis. And, and that's not always easy either. For some reason, it's so easy to fall out of a health routine, and it's so hard to get into a health routine.
Isn't that funny how that's the case? It's really
Yeah.
difficult to establish that, and then getting back into it, it's almost like you're going uphill. But
Yeah.
when we actually can get back into our meditation practice, our health, our other health practices, it actually ends up being so worth it.
Absolutely. Yes. And like I said, for some reason, I think I it's a strange thing. I know it's going to help me, but I really have to schedule things into my day. And so I'll often, even before I get out of bed in the morning, I'll set a timer on my phone and I'll just breathe for 5 minutes, because I know I'll still do it then. And I have different practices that I use with mindfulness throughout the day that I try and put into place, whether it's just concentrating on my breath or feeling different parts of my body. And it helps control my stress levels and my anxiety levels, which then helps control all the physical symptoms that I have. But it's for some reason so easy to just kind of forget about yourself. And it's a constant reminder. I remind myself, take care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anything else.
It's so true. It's so easy for things to really just get completely out of control if we're not taking care
Yeah.
of ourselves. I find that it really snowballs. It's like, okay, well, I feel lousy, so then
Yes.
I'm not able to do X, Y, Z. So then my life gets all
Yeah.
disorganized. I start to get
Mhm.
really cranky and nasty with my family, which, of course, they don't appreciate.
No.
We can all fall off the wagon on occasion. For example, when my family and I go on vacation, we're not going to be eating healthy all the time on vacation.
It's hard.
Yeah, it really is. But I noticed, it's funny, last time we were just back from vacation a few weeks ago, and I noticed, okay, I'm feeling, kind of lousy, and that in itself kind of gave me the motivation rather, to get back into my healthy practices.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I think it becomes easier. I know for me, it's definitely, like I said, I know what to do now. And so when I start feeling sick, I'm like, okay, even when I'm on vacation, I normally try and stay in places that have a kitchen so that I can cook, and then I can have a little more control. And that's just almost a reality of my traveling life now. And I'm someone who used to travel all the time. And I love food and I love trying different things. And that's just something I had to kind of shift out of. It's not what I get to do. I get to go to the grocery store now and I get to make sure that I have stuff that is healthy for me. And really, from my experience, as long as you have a kitchen, you can find, like, my diet's so simple. I don't need a ton of different things, and um, I'm not someone who's gluten-free that replaces the gluten. So I don't do gluten-free breads because that's full of other stuff that is bad for me. So really, I eat, eggs, meat, fish, and then vegetables, and you can find that almost anywhere.
Yep, that is
So
exactly what I do. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's exactly what I do. About, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I first tried gluten-free, I tried replacing it with the gluten-free breads, et cetera, and I didn't feel any better. And
Yes.
it was a funny thing because I replaced it with that. It didn't even have the same density as gluten, so I ended up being hungry on top of it. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, isn't that interesting? So what I did was just like you said, eggs, meat, fish, lots and lots of veggies, fruit,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
so far it's really been helping.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I do find too that ironically, I'm less hungry than I was when I was eating a lot of grains. And I think that our food definitely, it's addicting. And so it feeds like a negative feedback cycle on a biological level in your body. So when you eat something that's bad for you, you often end up craving that thing. And so just eliminating it completely is, in the long run, better. It can take a little while to get over that. I mean, you still have cravings. I still have cravings for things, but they're significantly less than what they used to be because I'm not used to it anymore. And well, it's not it's not really worth it for me to feel lousy. I try not to do that. And that doesn't mean it never happens, but I make a very solid effort to not fall off the wagon per se.
Yeah, that's great that you do that. I've read that if you are craving something, try drinking a glass of water instead.
Yeah,
I've tried doing
often you're
that.
thirsty.
Yeah, and it actually does help. So I'm really
Oh,
glad because
interesting.
there are times where, I'm hanging out, with my family and somebody has a piece of chocolate. And unless it's
Hmm.
mostly cacao and I just have a
Yes.
square, I don't do chocolate anymore. So if I'm craving that and all we have is like milk chocolate in the house, which is mostly dairy and sugar, I
Yeah.
just drink a glass of water. And then I also think, how am I going to feel if I eat this? And,
Yes.
and then it just ends up not being worth it. So, Cheryl, what is one thing you do every day to maintain or increase the abundance in your life?
I have the dietary thing is something that I do every day and almost without exception. Sometimes when I'm traveling, it gets a little iffy, but following my diet is definitely something that I do. And then I, I meditate, and it's something that came into my life when I was doing yoga teacher trainings, and I realized kind of the power of the mind body connection. And it's been exceptionally helpful for me. And does that mean that I sit for half an hour? No, because sometimes I can't sit. So I set a timer on my phone and I do it for 5 minutes. And sometimes after that 5 minutes, I'll be able to sit a little bit longer, but sometimes I don't even get 30 seconds out of the 5 minutes. But I make sure that I do that every single day. And I normally do it in the morning, but sometimes I'll do it in the evening as well. And I just sit there and I concentrate on my breath. And everybody can do that. Everybody can create 5 minutes in your day. And I think when you can take a deep breath and calm down, everything else calms down too. And just like you said about the chocolate, like you're craving chocolate and you really, really want it, take a deep breath and think about what that actually means and make a choice after taking a couple deep breaths, and see if there's a different choice than if you're just in the moment of feeling unsatisfied and wanting to satisfy something for whatever reason. And so I do the 5-minute meditation, and then I just try and stop throughout the day and take a deep breath and notice something I didn't notice before, whether it's a bird in the sky or a flower that's blooming or a snowflake that's falling, and just take a moment to sit in the moment. And I bet it's not even 10 seconds. Everybody can do this. Just take a moment for yourself and then keep going through your day and just see if anything shifts. Because I know for me, a lot of things shifted when I started doing that.
I agree with that 100%, Cheryl. That's what I've been able to do as well, though it took a while, because I was convinced for quite a while that I needed, at least half an hour to an hour to meditate. And I thought it would be complicated, and it's really not. I love that you put it that succinctly. All you need is 5 minutes. Close your eyes, relax your body, and pay attention to your breath. And when you get used to doing that, there is this underlying silence. And it's more than just silence. It's like a connection to everything, to all that is. And it's like, if you can do that and really be still and calm yourself, it's just incredible, and you can realize how powerful and how connected you really are.
Yeah, it is. And it's empowering of itself. I think anytime you can take your power back, and for anybody who has any kind of suffering, whether it's stress or whether it's an autoimmune disorder, whatever that is, if you can empower yourself in some way to take control over your body and your mind, you will feel better. And everyone has that. And like I said, 5 minutes, I don't necessarily make it through 5 minutes of concentrating on my breath. There's some days that I maybe get 30 seconds out of 5 minutes. But give yourself the time to do it. Give yourself the opportunity to do it. And I do think practice helps. The more you do it, the easier it will be.
Absolutely. And it's really just, it's almost like riding a bicycle, except it's a lot calmer in terms of practice. It gets easier and easier every time you do it. And so those are such great tips, Cheryl. Thank you for that. Now, what is the number one thing that you'd like our viewers to know about creating abundance?
That you can. It's possible. And I think in terms of health, when you're in the depths of it, and it's almost like you're sitting in an abyss and you don't know what to do and nothing's working and you're feeling lousy, it can change. But you have to believe that it can change first. And it's very hard to pull yourself out of that negative spiral, but you can do it. And once I have found that when you shift one thing in your life, everything else kind of falls into place too. It's a kind of a domino effect.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where to create any kind of abundance in our lives, it's not going to happen overnight. But if we take these small steps to start off with, then we begin on our abundance journey. And we don't have to be in a hurry, even though sometimes it feels like, oh my God, I want to get there now. For me, it's always been an issue. I'm still working on it. But then when I get really impatient, I remind myself that I'm on my way to whatever I want to manifest in my life. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had an appointment with my naturopath. This was years ago now. And I remember feeling that way and feeling like, oh, why am I still here? I'm doing all this work. I've made all these changes and I'm still not better. And she took out her file and she said, she read to me what I had told her the first day I was there. And she said, compare that to with where you are now. And it was like night and day. I had made leaps and bounds. And sometimes you forget how far you've come. And you're right, every little teeny tiny baby step counts because you're moving somewhere and you're making changes, and you can feel better, you can heal. And you might never go back to the way that normal is or what you perceive normal to be. But in certain ways, I think sometimes you end up with things better. It's not
Absolutely.
necessarily what you thought it was going to be,
Absolutely.
but
Normal. Yeah. Normal is boring anyway. I mean, who wants normal?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
there are much more interesting places to go, in my opinion. So thank you so
absolutely.
much. Yeah. Thank you, Cheryl Kemppainen, for being with me here today. Now, how can people get in touch with you?
So my website is cherylkemppainen.com, and my email is cheryl@cherylkemppainen.com. And I'm also on Instagram, which is really the only social media I do. I'm not that good at social media, but I do answer direct messages from Instagram. So you can find me in any of those places. And there's also a book I have out that I wrote with a bunch of other ladies, and it's called The Art of Unlearning. It's the second volume of an anthology series, and it's The Power of Perseverance. And more of my story is there, as well as my contact information. And that is available. Actually, the print version just came out, so you can get it on Kindle or a print version, and it's all nonprofit. So all proceeds of the book go to an organization called Kiva, which works to alleviate poverty for women worldwide.
That's fantastic. The Art of Unlearning is such a fantastic book series. I would recommend that every single woman get that book and get the series
Yeah,
because it's just
thank
absolutely
you.
fantastic. I mean, talk about empowering. It's just so great. So thank you so much again, Cheryl Kemppainen, for being with me. And thank you so much to all our video viewers / audience members who have been with us on this Abundance Master series. And we look forward to staying in touch with you. If you want to stay in touch with me, you can go to Facebook and look up Genevieve Kahn Universal, and you can get in touch with me that way. And looking forward to continuing to help you get on your abundance path. Thanks so much.